never thought one evening could undo everything I'd built. My name is Marissa, I'm 32, and if I could go back and undo one choice, just one, I would. It didn't begin with betrayal. It started with something that looked so harmless it barely even registered. A celebratory dinner after work. One night. One mistake. That's all it took to lose everything I once held dear. My boss and I had just wrapped up a major project. Weeks of effort, pressure, and long nights had finally paid off. To celebrate, he suggested dinner. Nothing formal, nothing romantic. Or at least, that's what I told myself. I ignored the subtle tension between us, the way his compliments lingered, the way my heart skipped a beat when he laughed. I convinced myself it was innocent, deserved, even, a reward after the grind. I didn't tell my husband, Daniel, the full truth. I lied and said it was a team dinner, just to see if he'd question me, if he'd notice, if he'd care. But Daniel, he trusted me completely. He always had. He simply smiled, kissed my cheek, and told me to enjoy the evening. That hurt more than I expected. I wanted him to push back, to ask questions, to show something, jealousy, worry, anything. But he didn't, and somehow that made me feel invisible. Daniel had always been the calm in my chaos. Steady, grounded, deeply kind. He wasn't one for grand gestures or dramatic words. But he was the man who listened when I rambled, who made my coffee just the way I liked it, who let me be exactly who I was without trying to change me. In the beginning, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Trust, freedom, stability. But somewhere along the way, I started to confuse calm with coldness. His stillness made me feel unseen. I wasn't looking for a fight, but I needed to feel wanted. Urgently, desperately. That night with Ethan, my boss, it wasn't planned. I wore the lie like armor, telling myself I was just letting loose for one night. But I knew the moment I left the house what I was walking into. And still I went. And I crossed a line I can never uncross. When I came home, everything felt wrong. Daniel was there, sitting quietly, reading a book like he always did. He looked up, smiled at me like nothing had changed. But I had changed. I felt it. I couldn't even look him in the eye. I tried to pretend everything was normal, but something in the air had shifted. The silence between us began to stretch longer. His touch faded. The warmth that once filled the space between us cooled. Then one evening, he asked me a simple question. "Did you have dinner with Ethan? Just the two of you?" His voice wasn't angry, just tired. I froze. Could have lied again. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw the answer already there. So I whispered, "Yes." He didn't shout. He didn't accuse. He just nodded. "I see." Then he stood and walked away. That was the beginning of the end. I tried to fix it. I cooked his favorite meals, reached for him like I used to, tried to bring back what we had. But it was like chasing smoke. He was slipping through my fingers. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't pull him back. When I finally broke down and begged him to talk, he looked at me with something like sorrow and said, "I think we're done." I was stunned. I told him we could fix this, that it was one mistake, that I'd change. But he shook his head and said something that shattered me. "I've been loving you the best I know how, but it always felt like you were waiting for someone else." The next day, he moved out. The fallout came fast. Ethan, who once seemed so captivating, turned cold and entitled. The flirtation disappeared. He became crude, crossing lines at work I never thought he would. When I finally spoke up, it was already too late. The office buzzed with rumors. People whispered behind my back. The once friendly smiles turned to awkward glances. My friends fell away. My own sister, who used to confide in me, said bluntly, "You always wanted more. Now you've got it." Daniel's family, who once treated me like their own daughter, cut me off completely. I was left in the ruins of the life I had destroyed with my own hands. I thought I wanted excitement. I thought I needed intensity. What I really needed was to be reminded of what love actually looks like. Daniel didn't love me with fireworks. He loved me with presence, with patience, with quiet strength. I mistook that for indifference. I tried to stir drama to feel alive, not realizing that his kind of love was already holding me together. By the time I saw it, he was gone. Now I live in a different city. The divorce is final. I quit that job and started over somewhere no one knows me or the choices I made. I'm in therapy, trying to understand why I threw away something so precious just to prove a point that never needed proving. There are days when the regret is too heavy, when the memory of his touch, his voice, the life we shared, hits me out of nowhere. A song, a familiar scent, a couple laughing in a cafe. But I'm learning. Love doesn't always arrive in a blaze of glory. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes it's just someone standing beside you while the world spins, refusing to let go. Daniel did that for me, every single day, until I pushed him away. If love ever finds me again, if life ever offers me a second chance, I'll hold it differently. I'll recognize it when it's soft, when it's still, when it doesn't beg for attention, but just is. And to anyone hearing this, don't test the ones who love you. Don't mistake peace for boredom. Don't go looking for storms when someone has already built you a shelter. Because some mistakes cost more than you can ever repay. And not everyone waits around for your apology.